In April 2025, China restricted the export of 7 highly specific heavy rare earth elements. These are the chemical building blocks necessary to manufacture high-performance permanent magnets. The global supply chain seized up almost immediately. Magnet exports dropped off by roughly 3/4. European buyers saw rare earth prices spike to 6 times the Chinese domestic rate, and major companies like Ford temporarily paused production lines simply because they ran out of parts. These components, known as neodymium iron boron magnets, are non-negotiable for modern technology. Direct-drive wind turbines require hundreds of kilograms of them to simply function, and advanced military hardware, like the F-35 fighter jet, cannot operate without roughly 400 kilograms of specialized magnetic materials integrated into its systems. This chart shows the global market share for permanent magnet manufacturing. China controls roughly 94% of the entire industry. Western defense contractors and green energy developers are currently relying on a supply chain built entirely around a single, easily manipulated bottleneck. Fast forward exactly 1 year, to April 2026. An American company called USA Rare Earth announced a $2.8 billion acquisition to buy the Serra Verde mining group. The target of this buyout is the Pela Ema mine, located deep in the Brazilian interior. It is a massive operational facility that recently completed a $1 billion development phase. A private company is making the purchase, but Washington is quietly footing the bill. The U.S. Development Finance Corporation committed $565 million to the project, while the Department of Commerce backed the buyer with a separate letter of intent worth up to $1.6 billion. This diagram shows how various U.S. government agencies are insulating this new supply chain from Chinese price manipulation. They set up a special purpose vehicle, an undisclosed financial entity that guarantees to buy the mine's output at strict floor prices for the next 15 years. The U.S. government is actively underwriting a massive corporate buyout in South America to keep its own domestic industries running. Brazil is the obvious target for this capital because of its physical geography. The country sits on an estimated 21 million tons of rare earth reserves, making it the second largest deposit in the world, directly behind China. This cross-section shows the true value of the Serra Verde site, a specific geological formation called ionic adsorption clay. Unlike traditional hard rock deposits that require expensive drill and blast operations, this clay is soft and sits near the surface. Miners extract the rare earth elements using a simple chemical wash, significantly lowering both capital and energy costs. Crucially, this specific type of clay naturally concentrates heavy rare earths, like dysprosium and terbium. These are the exact high-value elements required to make magnets heat-resistant. Until very recently, commercial deposits of this clay were entirely isolated to southern China. Now, the geology of Brazil offers the only scaled, physical alternative to break that raw material monopoly. The Western strategy here is straightforward. Extract the concentrated clay in Brazil, ship it to a specialized lab in Colorado for separation, and manufacture the finished magnets in Oklahoma. The central obstacle to this plan is the Brazilian government. President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva explicitly refused to align with a U.S.-led critical minerals coalition, sending only a low-ranking observer to a recent summit. Lula's administration insists that the country remains open to investment from anyone, including China. Moreover, Brazil is demanding that the complex, high-value refining stage of the supply chain happen on Brazilian soil, rather than shipping the raw dirt to the United States. Washington built a multi-billion-dollar extraction plan assuming it had a compliant partner, but collided with a nation aggressively pursuing its own strategic autonomy. Right now, that $2.8 billion acquisition is completely frozen. Brazil's national competition regulator, CAD, recently opened a formal probe into the deal. They are actively scrutinizing whether that 15-year exclusive supply contract with the U.S. government functions as illegal market foreclosure. Simultaneously, a political party petitioned the Brazilian Supreme Court to block the acquisition entirely, arguing that handing over these specific minerals violates national sovereignty. These legal maneuvers suggest that even the most well-funded Western projects can stall when they hit the reality of Brazil's domestic policy. It turns this massive supply chain plan into a test case for whether private capital can operate in a country that prioritizes its own autonomy over alignment. Digging the minerals out of the ground only solves part of the problem. China still maintains a 91% grip on the complex chemical refining process required to make the elements usable. If the United States actually wants to bypass that monopoly, it has a difficult choice to make. It will have to transfer its own advanced refining technology and billions in capital directly into a non-aligned nation that refuses to pick sides. Securing a 21st century supply chain means Washington can no longer rely on guaranteed allies. It has to compete commercially on an open market for partners who are looking out for themselves.